Here's today's recipe. You're welcome to stop the video and take a picture if you'd like. Hi everybody, welcome to the Baking Club with Marian. Today we are doing baked apples and squash. So let me just show you what I've got here. I have my ingredients ready this time and the things to do it with. I've got my peeler, my squash, a couple of apples because you know what? I've never made this recipe. It's always been my husband who's made it, and I love it. I should have made him come in and be the guest speaker for today. Anyway, I've got my measuring spoons, and over here I have my cinnamon and my salt. I've got my oil, and I'm going to be using date sugar instead of regular sugar, and that's just because of my diabetes. I have to be careful like that. Ordinarily, I probably wouldn't put any sugar in it anyway because the apples happen to make it pretty sweet, right? Or sweet enough for me. So I'm going to try it with the date sugar, but I probably won't use it the next time I make it. All right, so what else have I got? I also have my pan. Oh, my pan. I have my pan. Yay! I also have my knife. Now there's a knife, mate. Name that movie. There's a knife, mate. That's from Crocodile Dundee 1. Okay, good. Glad we got that out of the way. So I have this ready. And the first thing I'm going to do is cough like I always do in every stinking video I keep making. I cough. All right. So, I'm going to start the oven. It says oven, the recipe says oven to 425. So I've got that going. I talked to my husband about it because I said, wait, do you never grease the pan? Because the recipe doesn't say to do that. And he said, well, it helps it not to stick so bad. So I've got my cooking spray and I'm going to very lightly coat the pan. Okay, so there, got it done. And that's ready for when we get the rest of it ready. Now, what's so funny is I know I keep forgetting to have my paper towels handy. Well, guess what? I had my paper towels handy, and when I picked up that metal, the cookie sheet, I managed to drop them on the floor, so I won't be using those paper towels. Okay, alrighty, I should call this the messy cook, the cook who throws things around all over the place. So here's what we need to do. First thing we need to do is we are going to peel this. This is a butternut squash, okay? Now my husband said that when he's done it, the 2 cups that's required is about that neck size. So I'm actually going to cut the neck off first, being extremely careful with my... Oh, you guys, if you haven't washed your hands or washed your face, you need to stop the video and do that now. If you don't have your parents' permission, and you're supposed to have parents' permission, you do that next. Call them before you even start washing the hands, alrighty? So I've washed my hands, I've washed my face. I have permission to use this knife. So that's good, right? Being very careful, I'm going to slice through the neck. Sure I am. I'm trying to do this real carefully. It managed to get there. Okay, good. So I have that. I'm just going to put this aside until I cut this. Then I won't know how much I need. I have my measuring. I got my liquid measuring cup, but this is 2 cups, and that's how much it requires. So I am going to now peel this. But I usually peel mine over the sink so I can just gather up the peelings from that point. Now, if you happen to have your own background music, you can turn that on and listen while we both sit here and peel the butternut squash here. I was amazed when my husband first made this, how good it was. In fact, I love it when he makes it more often. So now I get to try it out and see what I think about the butternut squash plus, or what I think about making it, I should say. Alright, almost done, almost done, almost done, almost done, and voila! Okay, very good. So I have it. So now I'm going to cut this portion off, again, carefully. Okay, got it. So that's that. You know, I keep throwing things over here. That is my compost bucket. So we kind of compost things. Now, I am going to cut this into, I'm going to chop it. It says cubes, to cut them into bite-sized pieces. Now, when you do the bite-sized pieces, I just need to let you know, as they're in the oven, they will shrink a little bit. So I'm definitely going to make bite-sized pieces for this, okay? All right. So here I go. I'm going to cut, whoa, you got to see this first. Okay, there we go. I'm going to cut these in rounds, right? Being careful with fingers. There's two. There's my third one. There is my fourth one. There's my fifth one. Not that you need to count how many you've got. I'm just counting as I go, just to tell me what on earth I'm doing here. Just to see for future reference when I make this again. Okay, so now I have this. So bite-sized pieces? Let me look at this. I'm gonna fit it into my mouth. I'm gonna make one cut from one circle. And then once I turn that around, I make 3 cuts across. Did you understand that at all? I hope you were watching. So that's my bite-sized piece, okay? So I'm going to have to measure that. So there we go. That's my bite-sized piece. Now, let me show you again how I do it. First of all, I half the circle. Boom. The circle is halved. Then I'm going to make 2 cuts. 1, 2. Okay? So 1 cut. And then I'm cutting here. Cut. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to cut the rest of my butternut squash to equal the 2 cups right there. Okay. And so pause the video. You pause your video too and go ahead and cut away. So I cut my squash. I have the 2 cups. In fact, I think I have a little more than 2 cups, but I think that's all right. What's funny is, you saw me, I ended up cutting 5 of the rounds, right? Well, I have 1 whole round left, and I kind of shoved the next to last one in there anyway. The instructions talk about taking the seeds out of the squash, and you'd have to, I mean, when you want to use this for your next portion of baked apples and squash, then you also need to make sure that you take out the seeds. My husband also told me to tell you that when you're cutting the bigger piece, I mean the round bottom one, cut a portion so that now you can lay it flat. And that's easier to cut than if it were jiggling all over the place. Now, I am going to set this aside. I'm not going to use it. I still need to peel it and that kind of thing. If you want to double your recipe or something like that, then you can use the rest of it maybe. I know you'd need more butternut squash. So that's my 2 cups of butternut squash. Pouring that in. Yay! Yay! Now we go on to the apples as well. Now it says remove the core, but I'm going to remove the core as I cut around the apple. So I'm not actually going to core the apple. It also says to peel the apple. I like apple peelings. I think there's a lot of flavor and nutrients that come from the peeling. So I'm just leaving it on. I kind of do that when I make applesauce or anything else. I just leave the peel. It's good. So here we go. We're going to be careful, and I'm going to cut around the core. So let me move that so you guys can see. Again, watch out for your fingers. And I did wash my apple beforehand. And that is all. So then I have the core left, and I'll put that in my compost bin. I don't know how many apples I'm going to need. That doesn't look like that's going to be 2 cups. I do have my second apple here, so I will core it by cutting around the apple. And not cutting into my fingers, right? Okay, good. All right. So again, I want bite-sized pieces. So, half of that, a third of that, I guess. There we go. So, when it says cut bite-sized pieces, you don't have to do it exactly the way I've done it, obviously. You just need your bite-sized pieces. Guesstimate. That's how you learn what you need to do to cook, and also when you experiment, such as me not taking the core. I mean, not peeling, not taking the peeling off. So I'm gonna pause the video. You guys go ahead and cut your apples. It looks like I may need another apple myself, but you get your 2 cups of apple cubes, bite-sized pieces again. Gotta be careful not to make them too small. I'll finish this up, you finish yours. Okay, I have my 2 cups. It looks like it's a little over 2 cups. That's okay. I think nobody is going to be hurt just because we did it slightly more, or I did it slightly more. You guys can do it exact if you'd like. So now we've got the apple pieces, the squash into the bowl, and we're going to need the oil, the cinnamon, the sugar, and the salt together, and we're going to toss to coat. You can be messy and do it with your hands. You can be not messy and not do it with your hands. Here we go, but let's get the rest of the stuff in here. We want a tablespoon of oil. I happen to have a small liquid measurer. It gives me 2 tablespoons. So I'm just going to put that oil, going to measure it up, 2 tablespoons, and perfect. There we go. Got that taken care of. Good. That's going to help to get all of the spices coated on all of this stuff. Now it wants half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. People, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. I love cinnamon. So guess what? You can use half a teaspoon if you want. I'm afraid I'm going to do a full teaspoon. I know, isn't that daring and dangerous? Ooh. What will it be with that much cinnamon? I don't know. We'll find out if what I do and what my husband did come out better with what he did by following the recipe than me not following the recipe. You just never know. It wants 1 tablespoon of sugar. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and try the date sugar. And you use whatever sugar that you happen to have as well. So 1 tablespoon. I'm having a hard time because my date sugar is all compacted and it's got all of these little little bits and pieces that are all together. Okay, so there's my date sugar. I don't know. I doubt I'll use that next time. That seems like too much sugar. Okay, and half a teaspoon. Oh, but if you guys like the sugar, please, by all means, use it. See what happens with your baked apples and squash. Okay, half a teaspoon of salt. Now, guys, with salt, don't usually do more than what the recipe calls for. Salt can really make your flavored stuff too salty. So yeah, I go sparingly with the salt usually. Okay, so that is that. So now I'm going to toss it. So I'm not going to throw it around the room. No, I'm going to go ahead and grab 2 big forks, and I'm just going to kind of mix it together. Okay? So that the spices, the oils, the salt, the cinnamon, those are the spices, of course, gets nice and stirred up with all the different pieces. Okay? And there we go. Okay, I think I got it. Then what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to spread it into your pan. And this says specifically metal baking pan. I don't know why. One of these days, maybe I'll learn why there's a big difference between the metal and the glass cooking pans. But right now, metal. Metal will work just hunky-dory fine. Bake in 425. Okay, we're going to spread that in here. Now, as you remember, I lightly sprayed mine. You do not have to because there is oil in our mixture. Okay, here we go. Spread it out. Very good. And I don't want to use my hands. Okay. So the recipe says that this is going to take 20 to 30 minutes. It's all dependent really upon whether or not the squash gets all nice and soft. I'm spreading mine out a little bit because then the heat will go to all sides. If I clumped it all together, then the heat's not going to go to all the different sides of all the different pieces. The apples, the squash, of the apples and squash, right? Right. Okay. So there we go. Into the oven with this. I'm going to set my timer now. It says 20 to 30 minutes. And I was talking to my husband, and he said, well, you still might want to check it at 15. So I'm going to check it at 15, which means I'm going to set my timer for 15, and if I need longer, then I'll leave it in the oven for longer. I'll test to see how soft it is with a fork and poke one of the squash bits and see if it's super soft. So 15 minutes is what I'm going to set my timer for. Okay. So now we've got 15 minutes. Now guess what? I'm going to clean up. It's time for you to clean up. You've got your mess. You can put everything away, and if you want, you can chop up the rest of your squash and have that ready, but I will be back here in 15 minutes. So you might want to pause so that your stuff can get done too. Be sure to send pictures. I love the pictures of what you guys bake. Just real quick, I know it's not been 15 minutes, my stuff is not done, but I was cutting open the rest of my butternut squash so that I could have it ready and chunked. So I just wanted to show you that when I have it, of course you've got the seeds, just like a pumpkin, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just taking my fork, and in a minute I'll probably change to a spoon just because it'll probably be easier with a spoon, and I'm cleaning out those seeds, cleaning out the guts of the squash. Ew. Okay. So there it is. I'm not done yet. I'll do that off screen. I'll probably get a spoon instead. That may be easier. You know what? While I'm on screen, I'll go ahead and grab a spoon. Let's see if it is easier with a spoon or with a fork. Now, one of the other things that I could do, which would probably be just as easy, if not easier, is I cut this in half. And once I cut it in half, I can scoop away the rest of the guts of the squash. Nothing like making sick jokes to make cooking sound awful. Okay, let me try that and let's look and see how that goes. Shall we? Yep. So cutting it in half, being careful of fingers. Oh, and I already peeled it. Okay, so there. If I'd had this, it probably would have been easier just to do that. There we go. Okay, maybe it's not any easier, but at least I can see what I'm doing. Okay. There's that. Yuck. Ooh, gross. As if I'm not a messy cook anyway. I'm just a messy cook. That's all there is. So what do? I get my paper towels or the water. I get the water running, whichever I need. All right, so there's that. Go back and relax and rest until your apples and squashes are baked. And clean up. My 15 minutes timer just went off, so I'm going to check, and I wanted you to check too. I'm not completely done cleaning everything up because with the rest of my butternut squash, I was able to make yet another one. And of course, then as I'm doing the second batch, I look a little closer at my oil, and it says to do 1 tablespoon, not 2. Okay. All right, here we go. Sometimes things are just happy accidents. Okay, I can't see because my glasses are all fogged up. So I have to bring those totally out of the oven. I've got my fork here. Now I'm going to just test that right quick. Oh, these aren't so bad. Okay, there's a couple of them that feel a little chunky still, or a little, they still got a hardness to them, so I'm going to go for another 5 minutes. And that'll bring us up to the 20 minutes, so I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, I finished cleaning everything up. It's been 5 minutes. Gonna check it out again. And of course I carefully put my fork that I was using in the sink. So let's see. Yes, those are much softer. So some of them, okay, some of them aren't. It must be an apple. I think this will work for me. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out, put it in a separate bowl. Now ordinarily, I would turn off my stove, get my stuff ready to eat, but I'm going to make that second batch. The second batch, I didn't use as much cinnamon, I didn't use any sugar, any of my date sugar, nor did I use any salt. And we're going to taste test it. I better go cook that for 20 minutes. Both batches are done. Here is the first batch with the extra cinnamon in it. It looks like there's not very much here because somebody might or might not have eaten some of it already. So here's the taste test. And over here is the batch that I used the correct amount of cinnamon, but I didn't use salt and I didn't use sugar. So here we go. Oh, and it just came out of the oven, so it's going to be a little bit warm. So here I go. This is the one with more cinnamon. Okay, I love cinnamon. Very good. Now I'm going to try this stuff that has less cinnamon, no salt, no sugar at all. So it's not quite as brown as that other one. That was an apple. I also left it in a little bit longer because I have to make these chunks a little bit bigger. So the squash is pretty good. And I'm burning my mouth. Ow, ow, ow. Okay, important safety tip. Do not eat something off your tray right when it comes out of the oven because you will burn your mouth. And even after having said that, I'm going to do it again. Okay, so here's what I would do next time. I'm going to keep the extra cinnamon. I like that. But I'm going to cook it at a little bit longer. Not 15, more like 20, 23. I don't want it so soft that it just squishes on my fork totally. But I do want it pretty soft. So I'm thinking 23 to 25 minutes. And the other thing that I would do differently is I would not make these bites so big. I know it shrinks up a little bit. But I made them too chunky. Okay, so that's it. Have fun with your baked apples and squash. See what people think. If you happen to have used your the rest of your squash with some more apples, then you can change it up a bit and see which one you like best. All right, talk to you later. Bye.